Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniature, and today isn't much of a miniature, but I don't know. At least for some model builders, this might be a little bit obscure. This is the legendary Exodia Incarnate, and this is part of the Bandai Figurized Standard releases. You may have noticed I did a video a while back on the Blue Eyes White Dragon kit that was quite nice. I myself have never been a huge Yu-Gi-Oh fan. I mean, I will be honest, there are some really neat designs within the series. Just the shenanigans involved with the trap cards and continuous spell effects and all those things, it just addled my old man mind and I couldn't handle it anymore. So, just to preface, the size of this sucker, here is a regular sized Gundam box. So you can see we can barely fit Exodia on the screen as it is. And from what I understand, he is going to end up being quite a large model. In fact, I've seen some photos online and it seems like it's actually bigger than a master grade Gundam kit. So that's gonna be impressive. You'll notice that the box is bilingual descriptions in English and in Japanese. Get into his typical pose there, and it looks like that can't be all the parts. That does not look like that much, but it does show us at least a good breakdown of the color separations. Digging in, you can see we have some rather large sprues. Got that nice coppery color there for some of his chains and whatnot. You know what? To be honest, this looks pretty freaking simple. I mean, and for the size of the box, I almost, there's a difference there between the gold and the tan. That's good to see. Almost feel like we're at Kotobukiya levels of let's just make a big box because we can. So it costs a heck of a lot more to ship it and, you know, give it to the consumer. What do we have in here? Okay. Please tell me that is the extent of all the stickers. I think I can handle that. Huh. And you can see, hopefully, good old rubbery polycaps. Now, these aren't actual rubber, but they're that material that Bandai's use. That's interesting to see. I haven't seen a kit, a new-ish model kit in quite some time, I think, that actually had polycaps in it again. It's been a long time, I feel like. See his hands. You can see how we have the breakdown on the colors on the face. Taking a closer look at the instructions, because that's one of those things that I always love to do. It's funny, I still have a bad habit of keeping all of the instruction manuals from the various kits that I have built over the years. I still kick myself over the fact that as a young teenager, I ended up tossing just decades worth of old manuals, catalogs, instructions, paint guides. Some of that stuff, I mean, I don't think I've ever come across it even on the internet. It's just, it was that obscure. All the old Gunzei Sanyo kit catalogs and stuff, and like, they had little manga attached to it. There was a lot going on. Oh, I miss those. I'm sure I could find some of it online, but it's just not the same. Where's his head? Why are we starting with arms? Arms are boring. Oh, is this like, just like, you know, totally tear this? Okay, there we go. Huh. I mean, that looks like where most of the color separation is going to be is in the face. This really doesn't look like a complex kit, considering the way the instructions are all broken down as to this kind of a blow-up of each limb, building it one by one. Really gives me some SD Gundam vibes and how this is going to go together. Not that that's a bad thing, necessarily. I think for something like this, I'm also getting some shades of the Getter Arc kit that Bandai put out, which to me was a little bit of a disappointment in terms of just the simplicity of it. I expected a little bit more higher level of engineering, kind of more along the lines of the Super Robot Wars stuff, but this, you know, it is what it is. Let's not make any presumptuous opinions until we've at least put this guy together. So if you want to see how it turns out, sit tight. I'm going to go get started, and I will be back with the results in just a sec. Okay, the Forbidden One is jangling his way onto the screen here. And you know what? It's actually pretty simple to put together, I gotta say. I had some issues in quite a few spots. You can see there's some little gaps here and there. And almost all of those were due to the material, the what's it called? I can't think of the name now. The polycaps. Just attaching them, they didn't want to fit in some of their designated spots, and they just were stubborn trying to get things actually smoothly flush in quite a few spots. Thankfully, though, a lot of those are actually hidden up by the bands on his arms and legs. Construction was pretty straightforward other than that. The only actual decals that I ended up using were the ones on his chin. When you have the eyes, whoa, they're with your hand. When the eyes are actually, you know, separated out color-wise, I feel like it's kind of a disservice to put stickers over them. I mean, so yeah, that little decorative bit there in the front, those are the only decals on him currently. I think the most obnoxious and time-consuming part was building the little chains. There's fairly wide gaps in them, but I think if I keep things where they are, it should not be much of an issue. He is fairly posable, which is always a nice thing. I feel like there's a bit of limited motion in his hands. There's no extra hands, so it's pretty simple there, but he can also get a pretty wide pose with his legs. In case you're curious how big he is, that is a 1/144th Gundam, barely going to Exodia's knees. So he is a pretty good size kit. Grabbing a Motor Nuclear 1/72nd scale figure, you can see it's about comparable, and the Motor Nuclear kits are actually pretty large, so the fact that Exodia is almost standing head-to-head with that, it's a pretty good sign. Now, for you lapsed Tomb King, Empire of Dust players out there, I think this big boy might be a great centerpiece model for you, especially if you want to go with the Egyptian theme, and I think some nice panel lining will really help bring out all of the nice intricate patterns that he's got all over them. They're actually even on the bottom of his feet, which I thought was a funny little nice touch. Man, he's jangly with those chains. But overall, I'm pretty impressed. Even my son, who is very staunchly anti-Yu-Gi-Oh!, he was always way more, I've mentioned before, into the Duel Master stuff. And personally, I agree with him. The Duel Master designs are way cooler, but that game got just as convoluted and up its own butt with its just ridiculous rules at this point. I appreciate the fact that Bandai went to the trouble of making this, and it's not a Bandai exclusive, so that's a big plus. And I'm assuming, since everything was, you know, English and Japanese in the instruction manual, that there's pretty high likelihood that this guy is going to see some regular distribution in typical American retail outlets. Especially, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a pretty big brand name after all. I can't speak to our European compatriots out there. I would assume, you know, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just as big out there. Chances are you guys will probably find this stuff on your side of the pond as well. So do keep your eyes out. Do not resort to the ridiculous scalpers out there. You can find it for a good price. In fact, of all things, I found this at the mall while I was, you know, chaperoning a bunch of high school kids. Why I was at the mall, I don't know. It's because they had a Japanese bookstore in there that had a fairly decent range of stuff. So I'm like, I'm grabbing that, especially considering the yen to dollar ratio wasn't too grossly over exaggerated. So I'm happy about that. What are we going to see next in this line? Only the future will tell, but I can pretty much guarantee you if Bandai keeps releasing interesting and funky figurized models like this, you'll probably see it on this channel. So you can always keep on checking back. In the meantime, it's not like we don't have a backlog of tons and tons of videos as it is either. So with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.